Dr. Otuneko and the Honeywell Group. Hello and welcome again to the presentation for the Honeywell Group from Xpress Shuttle regarding centralized booking transportation for Africa. As my agent has said in the past scene, Xpress Shuttle aims and endeavors to be the #1 booking portal for all ground transportation within Africa. That means whether you're in US, whether you're in China, whether you're in Europe, whether you're in the Middle East, you'll be able to go online via your mobile phone, via your PC, and book any number of ground transportation services with Xpress Shuttle. Let's begin the presentation. Now, I know by now you're wondering, okay, why is Xpress Shuttle making a case for this? Number one, if you follow along in the slides that we have to the left of you, the power presentation slides, you'll see that ground transportation by car, bus, motorbike, any form of ground transportation is a need that needs to be fulfilled on a daily basis for all of us, students and businessmen alike. Number two, tourism is at its highest rate according to the Unified World Bank Transportation Organization since 1990. Now, accessing reliable, efficient, and secure ground transportation is an ongoing growing sector. From 1990 until now, 2014 that we're in, it's been growing at rates that are enormous. In addition to that, the use of mobile devices to access these ground transportation is also a growing sector. That means technology has married transportation. Not only transportation, but so many aspects in our everyday lives. We're using mobile phones, we're using smartphones, we're using portable devices, iPads, iPods, just to communicate. Texting, whether it's booking reservations, whether it's watching TV, everything is starting to integrate into mobile technology and the internet. Why not transportation? Why not ground transportation? This is what we're making the case about for Xpress Shuttle. Now, we at Xpress Shuttle would like to be the centralized provider of all these services that pertain to ground transportation, meaning point-to-point transportation, hiring a driver, or renting and leasing a vehicle. That's what Xpress Shuttle endeavors to do. That's why we believe there's a case for our business model. Let's take you through some statistics. You can go on to the next slide if you haven't already. The number of tourists is mentioned before, or tourism. This is with not factoring travelers who travel for business or students who travel. This is just pertaining to tourists. Since 2012 to 2013, the numbers have been 63.6 million tourists to the African continent. The percentage of growth of that tourism within Africa is projected, again by the World Bank Transportation Organization, for 2014 to be a 3.3% growth. Wow, that's incredible. And I'm sure the statistics have underestimated how much that growth could be within this 2014 year. Travel bookings made on the internet through computer and mobile devices in 2013 was a whopping 148.3 million users. Can you imagine? The percentage of online travel queries or questions that were made on the internet just specific to traveling was at 40%. Again, what enormous figures are we talking about relative to traveling? Now, that could be through air, that could be through sea, but I'm sure those queries were in line with other things other than air and sea. Ground transportation has to be one of them. Now, the number of online websites offering these multiple ground-based transportations that Xpress Shuttle aims at and does currently provide, you'll be surprised to know, is zero. No one on the internet specifically targeted for the African market exists currently offering those three services in one place. Why don't we let Xpress Shuttle be the first in the foreground of this burgeoning technology? Let's move on to the next slide. So why Xpress Shuttle? Well, as mentioned before, we aim to be the one centralized ground booking transportation portal. Again, to mention, for point-to-point transportation, that means from anywhere I am, either through my mobile device, smartphones, portable devices, I can book any one of three services, or all three if you like. Point-to-point transportation, I can get a cab, I can get a private car to drive me from Ikeja to Iwo Road, from Muratala Muhammad to the Radisson Blu, anywhere, point-to-point transportation. Or I can hire a driver. Maybe I have a vehicle of my own, and all I need is a driver to come and pick me up and drive that vehicle for a number of days. Go to the Xpress Shuttle website, and you can book that driver for those number of days. Or maybe I don't have a vehicle, but I need a driver and also a vehicle. You can do the same thing as well via Xpress Shuttle. Or maybe I need to rent a vehicle or lease for a long period of time. Well, the portal exists at Xpress Shuttle. TakeXpress.com. That's where you can do all three services from one portal in Africa, for Africa. Now, as I mentioned before, there's three main services that we provide. That point-to-point, hiring a personal driver with or without a vehicle, or renting or leasing a vehicle. These things in one central location do not currently exist. Let us make Xpress Shuttle the first and the foremost to do this. So, what currently does exist today? Well, you might say, yes, I've looked on the internet, or I've talked to friends, or I've seen other taxi services. I've seen drive hire services. I've seen rental and lease vehicle companies. Yes, that is correct. But all located in one portal? No, it does not exist. Now, the beauty of it is there are many companies via technology coming out with many mobile applications, many mobile services that would allow you to do these things. Let's take, for instance, in Nigeria, two companies, Transit.com and EasyTaxi.com. Those two companies are targeting a market where you can go on your mobile phone, you can go on your PC, and you can book a taxi service or find a taxi service on the go. Again, these are centrally located within Nigeria. Again, these are single service providers. Xpress Shuttle is not. We aim at getting all three of these services mentioned before, point to point, hiring a driver, rent and lease, in one portal, one booking portal to do all. Think about it. Think about Expedia.com. Think about Hotwire.com. Think about Booking.com that provide air and sea and various transportation services all in one portal. That is Xpress Shuttle. You might have heard of a company called Uber.com. They're vastly expanding within the United States. They're targeting many large cities, not just within the United States, but San Francisco was their first target market, and now they're expanding, but they have not hit Africa yet, with the exception of South Africa. Now, if the Honeywell Group and Dr. Otundeko join us, we can hit that target market, Africa, the continent of Africa, before anyone does. We ask you to come and invest and be on board with us in this endeavor. Let's move on to the next slide. Just to give you a little background, since we've been talking so much about what Xpress Shuttle can provide, I'll just give you a background of how we started out and what made us start out in the first place. Well, my father, Olaiton Denny, he traveled to Nigeria a few years ago. And as typical as we do in Nigeria and Africa in general, we'll call a family member, call a friend, come and pick me up at the airport, so I don't have to pay any money, I don't have to go through any hassle, things like that. Well, my father arrived at the airport, and unfortunately, he was met with no one there to pick him up. Well, he came back, told me the story, to cut a long story short, and I was hit by the idea that why not have the ability to start a shuttle services from Murtala Muhammad that would take him anywhere he wanted to for a single price that he would have paid back in the United States. That means in the United States, he would have said that I'm coming to Nigeria, the airport, so-and-so date, pick me up, made payment. Once he gets to the airport, the driver knows, picks him up, takes him to his destination. He arrives at his family's house, no hassle, hassle-free and secure. Well, Xpress Shuttle did endeavor to do this back in 2010. We took shuttle buses down to the airport, we set up our services. And because of one thing or another, we didn't continue to pursue those services. But when we returned back to the States, we had the idea to initiate or generate or incorporate 2 other services in addition to that shared transportation services that we began with. Now, all we're looking for is an investor to invest in this multi-transportation providing service portal for Africa, for all of Africa. Initially, we were just targeting Nigeria, but now we're currently targeting all of Africa. It can be done, and we are doing it. We have partners on board who are interested to provide drivers, to provide taxis, to provide personal vehicles. All we need to do is centralize these things into one portal so it can bring cost savings to us and also the intended clientele. Let Xpress Shuttle be at that forefront. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so once again, let's return to what Xpress Shuttle does provide. Why choose us over anyone else of these dispersed transportation, ground transportation providers? Well, again, revisiting the fact that we aim to offer, and as we do offer, 3 ground-based transportations located in one secure, safe portal. You go to www.takeexpress.com. That's www.takeexpress.com. Simply go through the prompts, put in your location, your current location, where you are, where you want to make the reservation from. Say I'm in the United States. I make the reservation from the United States. Gives me a drop down of, okay, I'm going to Africa. What part of Africa? Are you going to South Africa? Are you going to Estonia? Are you going to Eritrea? Are you going to Nigeria? You put in your details. We give you an estimate of how much that ground transportation service will cost for the duration of time that you need the transportation. And you simply go through the payment process. You make your payment either online via your PC or via a mobile phone or your portable device. A receipt is sent to you. Once the receipt is sent to you, you take that receipt, only the receipt, to your driver in Africa. You'll know your driver ahead of time. Present it to your driver. The driver will be waiting for you safely and securely. He'll present his identification to you, and you're done. You're headed to your destination. Or if you need a driver, once you get into Nigeria or Estonia or South Africa or wherever you may be traveling to within Africa, you will know your driver and ground transportation service provisions well ahead of time, safely and securely. This is what makes Xpress Shuttle unique. This is why we asked the Honeywell Group and you, Dr. Otundeko, to come and join us today. You can go on to the next slide. We have a little more statistics if you're interested regarding the African market and what the growth potential is as far as tourism goes. Now again, remember, we haven't factored into this or into these statistics the fact that they're also business travelers, their families, their students, college students, university students, high school students who are continually events, people who are going for events, continually going to Africa on a daily basis, and they need transportation services. And how can they access these transportation services other than word of mouth, other than reading in a magazine, other than going to a travel agent? Xpress Shuttle aims to have all of these services in one booking portal, similar to Expedia.com, similar to Hotwire.com, similar to Booking.com. Join us today. Let's go into the next slide. So it's not that Xpress Shuttle is just out for itself or out for clients, but we aim to make an impact within the African continent. How, you might ask? Well, obviously job creation, not only in Africa. Think of the United States. Think of anywhere that Xpress Shuttle will lay its tentacles. Job creation through logistics, through marketing and advertising, through management, through hiring drivers within Africa. We're going to contend with drivers and ask them to join us to see if they would like to partner with us to be our vetted drivers. So we know we have professional drivers, we have professional car service providers, and we're not only bringing money into Xpress Shuttle's pockets, but also increasing the rate of return for these drivers, for these transportation and taxi providers as well. And of course, we'll have a centralized booking portal that doesn't just target one specific audience. It targets everyone. College students, the casual traveler, the business traveler, high school students, families, all alike. Doesn't make a difference. They all can book safely and securely now on the Xpress Shuttle website at takeexpress.com. Simple. Let's move on to the next slide. So, our vision here at Xpress Shuttle is not one-dimensional. We also have future plans. Because these things don't exist in a massive way now, we would like to also implement in the future airport transportation shared services. That means the vans that we originally started with, we like to put them in all various parts of Africa, African airports. So you can have like a super shuttle, a go shuttle, which are prevalent here in the United States. We'll have those in Africa. They currently exist very low key right now. Maybe you might get one from a hotel to the airport, but we like to make them on a massive range. It can be done because we've tried it and it exists. The potential is there. Also, we like to start marketing after we hit the U.S. market. First of all, with Xpress Shuttle, we like to start targeting the Europe and Asia market. We like to make Xpress Shuttle a household name through Europe, through Americas, through Asia, through Africa. And in addition, we were thinking also of adding excursion services for desperate parts of Africa. Let us tap into the natural resources of the beauty of tourist areas within Africa. Let's take Nigeria, for instance. Let us try to make Nigeria, the beaches of Nigeria, the beautiful beaches, or the beautiful beaches that they can be, excursion getaways, just like a Jamaica for Nigeria. Those are some of the future plans that Xpress Shuttle would like to implement into its model as well. Now, all of this takes money. All of this takes investment. All of this takes is resources. We have laid some of the foundation now. We've partnered with many transportation companies in Nigeria, for starters. We've built a website. We've built a mobile presence. But we'd like to do some other things in order to get to that next level of development for the Xpress Shuttle business. And that's why we're coming to you, the Honeywell Group and Dr. Otundeko. Some of the things that we like to do within the next few months is patent and secure this idea so it won't be duplicated. Then we'd like to come up with a more catchy brand name. We're thinking of maybe try Longo.com and GoAfric.com, but those are still in the phases of change. And we'd like to upgrade some of the administrative things, like changing some details in the website, and also having a mobile application similar to the ones that they have, like Uber and Halo have on smartphones or iPhones. Currently, as I mentioned before, we do have a recursive mobile app, but it's not an application that spans throughout all of these mobile devices, the Samsungs, the iPhones. Part of the investment money will go towards that. Next, we'd like to mass market heavily in those markets that we mentioned before, starting with the United States through obviously social networks, Facebooks, the Twitters, the Tumblrs, blogs, then through flyers, through several advertising medium, radio, through television, cable networks. We have an agenda of where we're going to target, how we're going to target. We just need the investment dollars to do so. Last but not least is to mass market new contacts of partners, rental car companies, potential private drivers, potential taxi services who are willing to jump on board and be part of Xpress Shuttle's business model. This is what's going to let Xpress Shuttle grow and grow immensely throughout the African continent, and would not like to just focus on Nigeria, but all of Africa, starting with Central Africa, Sub-Saharan, and West Africa. This would allow us to do, if you want to go into the next slide, to target within the next few months, let's say within the next 2 to 3 months, if we can get these initial initiatives in line, we can start targeting key events that are going to be taking place within the next few months within Africa. That is Xpress Shuttle's goal. And we need you, the Honeywell Group, and Dr. Otundeko, to invest in us. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, this leads us, again, following on to what monies are necessary as an initial investment for the growth and level development of the Xpress Shuttle model. Well, we did some calculations out, and we found out that an approximation, high-end approximation, would require from $300 to about $650,000 in order for us to develop a lot of these administrative, marketing, traveling, personnel, resource procurement costs. And you can look over some of these figures on the presentation slide. If you need more detail as to the the breakdown of these costs and expenses, feel free to contact us. As a matter of fact, the contact information is on the next slide. You can email me, you can call me, and feel free to come up with any questions that you may have regarding what I've discussed, some of the investment expenses, and some of the other provisions of Xpress Shuttle. Well, this is pretty much the end of the second half of the presentation for Xpress Shuttle, and why we believe that this will be a good fit, because looking over your extensive portfolio for the Honeywell Group, we've noticed that although it is a vast portfolio, there is no transportation, there's no technology sector, and we at Xpress Shuttle would like to fill that void and that gap. Thank you again, the Honeywell Group, Dr. Otundeko, for your time and your cooperation, and for giving us the opportunity here at Xpress Shuttle. to share with you our vision. We do hope, and I do hope, that you will come on board, invest in us, and let us lead the forefront of having a centralized ground booking transportation service within the African continent. You have a good day.